Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. David Ricketts, an Innovation Fellow at the Technology and Entrepreneurship Center at Harvard. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's session on smart strategies to revive urban tourism. The tourism industry has been one of the most heavily affected by travel restrictions implemented during COVID-19 pandemic, with cities that depend on tourism suffering greatly. An estimated 120 million people globally have lost their job in tourism, disproportionately affecting women, young people, and small entrepreneurs, as they account for 80% of the global tourism sector. Today, we want to discuss and think about the question, how can cities leverage data and information to help bring tourism back in a sustainable and inclusive way? I'm very pleased to be joined by a panel of distinguished guests. Ming Wong is the Chief Technology Officer from the Singapore Tourism Board. Ming, welcome. And then Dr. Elif Balci is the Vice General Manager of Tourism and Operations and Development for Turkey. Dr. Balci, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And finally, we have Andreas Spycher, who works in the data and services for the government and public sector at Mastercard. Welcome, Andreas.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much.
So I think we all know that the pandemic is not over, but we are starting to see the world come into what we can all, I think, believe is the new normal, whatever that may take. And one of the key areas that I think many of us are interested in is how can we return to seeing our friends, our colleagues around the globe? When will tourism and travel come back, and how will it come back, and how can we maybe accelerate that? And I think also importantly, how do we make the new world better than the last one? And we spoke earlier just of inclusivity and understanding that we have the opportunity here with this disruption to really build a stronger and more inclusive tourism and travel industry. Andreas, I know Mastercard recently published a Tourism Recovery Insights report. Could you share with us a few of the key takeaways from that report?
Thank you. Yes, David. I mean, there are a couple of things to start out from a very high level macro side. And one of the first things that we published out is because 2020, a lot of people could not travel. There's not only a huge pent demand that I want to go travel, I want to go see my mother, I want to go see my relatives, I want to go recharge my battery, I want to go have some fun outside my home. But there's also a huge amount of unspent travel money, which is now lying around on current accounts. And that obviously is a huge opportunity for very many travel destinations, cities included, to go actually tab onto this pond of money which is out there, which is ready to be spent. And we know this from our side that the consumer is super willing to spend. So that's one of the first things that we brought in on the travel report. Then we obviously looked at the consumers and saying, well, why is this consumer ready to spend, and where is this consumer ready to spend? And we all talked about it. You know, the world went digital last year, and that's nothing new. The world went contactless. That's something which is a bit different because many markets were not even equipped to go contactless. And that's fundamentally important for cities to understand that how important now contactless is, because cities are the places where it's the most touch points you have. Everything you have to touch something, going into an MRT or into a metro, getting on a bus, getting on a taxi. That's not happening in the countryside. So again, contactless came really strong through. The next things that we sort of saw is subtly new spending behaviors of consumers doing new stuff and interesting stuff out there that we wouldn't have expected them to do. Not only taking up new hobbies and recurring to activities that they didn't do in the past, but starting complete new stuff in the wellness environment. The generation millennials and the generation Z suddenly start to, go wellness. Retail generation, that's the generation that read therapy on their mind. And now suddenly they're going into wellness, spending on complete different activities. And that's not just because it was during lockdown. It's even now after lockdown, after markets have reopened, we continuously see that. Then we suddenly saw road warriors come back, people venturing out to secondary destinations which they thought are safer because air travel was either not available or was becoming too expensive. So those are all things that on the trend side that we published in the report, which can be obviously downloaded in that environment there and looked at. But what we also told them is travel is coming back disproportionately different, market by market, as well as also segment by segment and consumer segment by segment. And where it's coming back, and this is what we're really seeing right now happening in Q2 in many markets around the world where travel is starting to rebound, it's not coming back linear. It's coming back exponential. It's coming back so fast exponential that we're also obviously taking a risk that some vaccine might not hold up and the pandemic might have a new footprint. But if we look at Europe right now in the last 2 months, we're talking about 124% pickup on travel from basically a lockdown in May. And now it's booming in Europe in that sense. The US has already gone 6 months earlier into the starting cycle, right before spring break, you saw how it came through. And those are the data points that we have in our report.
And you mentioned the uptick in travel. Is this domestic travel within Europe and within the US, or do you see a lag for the international travel?
So let's look at that from 2 time points. So I think, it's dominantly domestic/regional. Travel is happening in the near regional front. So in the US, it's Mexico, Caribbeans, and the US. In Europe, obviously, it's a neighboring country, or you're stepping over the next neighboring country. So if you're in Germany, you might not go to France. You can also go all the way down to Italy or to Spain, because there's 2 things around that which are fundamental. In Europe, there's alternative routes to take if you can't fly. So hence, if you're stuck in one part, if you're not just going to the Balear Islands, then obviously you can take a way back. And that's a very important thing for the consumer. The consumer wants to be able to manage disruption. In the US, a large part of the long-haul travel is not recovering. And there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, business is lagging very far behind, and business is the one which has been filling up the long haul in the front of the cabin, which has been making the profit for the airlines. If business is not returning that fast, the airlines can't beef up those long-haul networks. Hence, the consumer is restricted to something where you can actually go with narrow bodies or in shorter range, where a lot more of the segments which have been traveling now in the recovery phase are found on the airplane, which are the leisure segments. So long haul will always be lagging behind, and we see this in our transactional data as well as also in our research data. And that long haul will not recover that fast if the business volume does not come back at the same time. And the business volume is going to lag hugely behind. If you look at our data, a large part of the corporate travel is related to intercompany travel, and some of the sales meetings are on MICEs. These 2 things are not happening anymore. We're doing everything with Zoom. A large part was also related afterwards to some of the events that we've done. Nothing of that is happening either. Commuting happening. So that's about 50% of the big corporates travel. That's not going to come back that fast. The ones which are really recovering well, and we see this brilliantly, is the SME segment, because they don't have regional offices. They don't have to go to their other offices around the world. They go see their customers. They go see their production plans, their suppliers, and they come back home.
Right. Can you just let us know where we can access the full report for those that are listening and may want to get more details?
So it's on the Mastercard website under the Economical Institute. You will find the link of basically the latest travel recovery report.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Andreas. Dr. Balci, I'd like to get some of your insights. Why is it important to have both a country approach and a city approach in bringing back tourism?
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a pleasure to join this panel today. In today's world, actually, we are all aware that the cities are the rising destination brands when it's compared with the country brands. And most of the city brands became more powerful images than the country brands in the recent years. But during the pandemic period, which still affecting the international travel, as well as the tourism sector still, the need of tourism and travel transformed themselves from the complexity to the basics, the freedom of travel, the ability of travel. And the transformation now points out the country brands, which are more important than ever, not just for the countries itself, but for the world. Now, the freedom of travel depends on agreements, regulations, and negotiations between the countries. Approaches of the countries to each other is the factor affects travel and tourism at a big scale. And while country brands put them into stage so strongly, I would like to also mention about our experience as Turkey. We made also a strategic movement just before the pandemic. the establishment of the Turkish Tourism Promotion and Development Agency, which is an affiliate body of the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, but supported and managed by also the private sector and the public institutions in 2019 July. And we officially started our operations as of 1st of January 2020. And the first topic at our table was unfortunately the pandemic. And together with all our other responsibilities in terms of promoting and developing the country's tourism brand, we undertake the role of trust building in order to reopen the borders. It required to develop a sustainable business model for each single part of the tourism, the colleagues, the facilities, tourists, and related business partners. And under the leadership of Ministry of Culture and Tourism, with the contributions of other related ministries such as Health, Internal Affairs, and Foreign Affairs, in cooperation with all the stakeholders, NGOs, and the industry, we launched the Safe Tourism Certification Program in the fastest way and with the largest scope rather than many other destinations with similar programs. And our program not only contributed to Turkey's reopening process, it's also adding value to the secure and healthy tourism perspective from the province level to the countrywide. It also created a valuable became model for reopening many other sectors, regions, and also the other countries. And today we have over 11,000 registered tourism facilities. Almost 7,000 of them are hotels, accommodation facilities. The certification is done by independent certification companies. Those are all internationally accredited companies. So it's not the government giving the certification. And the certification is not a one-time process. Each certificate is issued for a 1 month period. And each hotel facility receives 4 routine and unannounced inspections during the period. So when we look at the point of view of the country to city brand, we included our 81 cities into this certification program. So each city can use this as an added value, but we have to use this program as the trust when we talk with other countries, other destinations, the borders, the international relations, and also all the communication with tour operators or any other type of business partner. So as we see during the pandemic, the country brands are once again very important, but of course the city brands, the destination brands, and of course, maybe at the later stage, we will be discussing how we will be creating the future for the city brands, because as we lost the business travel, the MICE segment, there's an urgent need for new approaches for also the city tourism.
Great. I was also interested, I mean, Turkey is such a beautiful country. What opportunities did Turkey take to improve destination development while you were also planning for reopening?
I mean, as we were the new body, there were both the advantages and disadvantages. We were already at the stage of, starting from the scratch to create the strategies for promoting the country, the new products and the new destinations. First, we started with the digital approach. We started with our website, which was in the past goturkiye.com as a website. Now it's under the same address, but it's a platform. We don't call it as a website anymore. We have 50 different tourism pillars, including all different experiences. We call them as experiences, including the gastronomy tourism, the cycling tourism, sports tourism, religious tourism, and we added the information about all destinations, which are offering the experiences for those pillars, but also we added the routes and also the detailed information. Also, together with that, we created the micro websites for the 81 cities, the 7 regions of Turkey. So each destination, each city, even including some small destinations, for instance, we have the city of Muğla named, but we have Bodrum, Marmaris, Göcek, Fethiye, different type of smaller resort destinations under one city. So we also identified all those destinations as separate destinations, and they all have their micro website under the same umbrella. Also, together with the destinations, under the auspices of the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, we started our destination development program. So we are, while there's no possibility to have that much international travel, we are traveling internally. We have finished our first tour of the visit of 81 cities. Now I'm at the second tour. I'm in the city of Adana. We are discussing how to develop further the tourism product development, the domestic tourism, and the international tourism to our destinations.
Great, great. Thank you for all those excellent details and insights for the great things Turkey is doing. Ming, I'm curious, how has Singapore used the lockdown period to explore new tourism opportunities for the eventual reopening?
Thank you, David, and thank you once again for having me on today's panel. I think I kind of echo what Andreas mentioned earlier, some of the changes that we see in terms of behavior. So I think that's what we are seeing and expecting here in Singapore. We expect that the behavior and the norms for travel to change for good. And as mass leisure travel has been down over the past year, really, our tourism and lifestyle businesses have been exploring ways to allow consumers to do a few things. I think first of all, is really experiencing Singapore from afar. So I think there's a lot of experimentation of be it virtual tours from different parts of Singapore and kind of beaming it to, let's say, the United States, to Japan. And I think it's really very much an experimentation, varying degree of success. But I think it's really good that people are taking that spirit of experimentation. We're also seeing other areas such as hybrid marathons. We have the Standard Chartered marathon that went on a hybrid kind of mode. There was also experimentation where there's a mixture of theater with game, with actual hotel location. So kind of concepts that combines both hybrid and physical presence at a certain place. So that's number one, I think, where businesses are letting people experience Singapore from afar. I think the other two things that they are doing is really how do you stay top of mind on the visitors around the world. I think this one, all the cities are really trying to do that, right, to stay top of mind. And at the same time, to build a demand so that when market recovers, you're ready for it. I think the second area is really, we believe that to thrive, for businesses to really use this time to do a few things. I think firstly is to reimagine their products. So I think some of the experimentation I mentioned earlier points to some of this. I think the trends that Andreas mentioned about going contactless, the road warriors or wellness, I think those kind of also point to new products that people might be want to think about. But I just saw a very simple example, right, where one of the hotels was saying that for years they were trying to do away with physical receipts. When the guests check out, they always put it in a nice receipt in an envelope and then give it to the guest. And they for the longest time they couldn't do that. But now with the heightened awareness about safety, you want to reduce touch, this actually presented a perfect opportunity to make some of this process changes. And I think the other two things that our businesses need to do is really refashion business models. You can imagine for conferences that have gone hybrid, where are you getting your revenue from? There's a need to retrain and reskill workers. So actually with all this, I think for Singapore, we have also been looking at a lot about what are the resources that we can put forth to help businesses transform in this journey. So actually in May this year, we launched a hybrid innovation platform called TCube. It is really not just a suite of resources that we offer to our businesses, but it's also a place where we can get thought leaders come to share, to build that thought leadership, but also build a community of innovators that we can come together to co-create and ideate, what are some new ideas and concepts and products that can be used for the tourism sector.
Great. You mentioned virtual augmented reality as allowing people to virtually visit Singapore. I'm just curious, how do you see the technology that's being developed for some virtual connection going forward after we reopen? Do you see that changing? Do you see that adding? Do you see, what do you see as the trend, or you think that technology will do after the reopening?
Yeah, I know that one common sentiment is that nothing beats the physical experience, and I don't deny that. I think at the end of the day, you need that physical experience, but at the same time, I think there is a space for technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, and I think that they will fundamentally transform the travel experience. In particular, I think AR or augmented reality can be used to bridge that online-offline divide and provide a more seamless and memorable experience to visitors. I think some examples are like immersive storytelling through 3D characters, augmented reality-enabled wayfinding. But I think even now what we see is in the MICE space, in the meeting space, we already see various technologies to teleport people to an event. And this is really using on the very high end will be hologram technologies. On the more readily available will be kind of hologram-like technologies that kind of use LED screens, but they have some additional technologies to make it more lifelike. And I think STB also decided that AR is an accessible technology, and we believe that it will become mainstream in the next couple of years. And because AR experiences are generally accessed through mobiles, they do not require much hardware investment. So we think that it will lead to the ease of adoption from the consumer perspective.
Right. And just touching on the technology, you spoke a little bit of contactless. We're all familiar now with our smartphones typically can do contactless. Are there other technologies that you think will help make travel more seamless and more healthy as we try to figure out how to reconnect in a safe way?
Yeah, I think on this front, right, really to trying to understand travelers' perception and behavior in this new environment, the Singapore Tourism Board surveyed close to 200 respondents from across 10 markets late last year. And we found that 88% of respondents considered health and safety as the most important factor when choosing their next overseas destination. And this is a clear indicator that the tourism and hospitality companies must be able to reassure the public of high hygiene standards. So I think besides broad-based hygiene initiatives about deep cleaning and regular cleaning, technology facilitates that contactless interactions like you mentioned and help us to reassure visitors. And I think many visitors have adopted various technologies to make that happen, to manage crowds, to manage queues. I think one example is this company, a local startup called Balci, that is also alumni of the Singapore Tourism Accelerator program. They developed a contactless solution to reassure guests of their safety while improving the operational efficiency for hotels. So this one is to avoid crowds at lobbies, gyms, and pools. Balci created the digital concierge that allows guests to receive the instant, accurate responses to common questions and to pre-book time slot at facilities. And I think at one of the hotels, they saw 87% of their guests utilizing this service to book gyms, pool slots. And this initiative also resulted in kind of reduction in their guest inquiries. I think the other initiatives that we've been pushing for is really that self-check-in hotels. So we call it the e-visitor authentication system, or EVA in short. So we have already seen about 30 hotels coming on that to reduce the physical touch point and to simplify the check-in process.
Right. Great. Thank you very much, Ming. Dr. Balci, I have a question for you and for everyone on the panel. You know, Turkey's been a popular tourist destination for a long time. How do we make sure when we fully reopen that we reopen to a better experience, maybe both for the tourists, but then also for the citizens of Turkey, both in an economic sense, but also a crowding, a sustainable viewpoint of making sure that we have a holistic view of tourism, because I know a lot of very popular destinations became overcrowded in the past years, or are over tourists, if you will. And so I'm just interested in your thoughts on building a better tourism economy in Turkey post-pandemic.
Thank you. First of all, the Ministry of Tourism and Culture has announced the strategies for Tourism 2023 a couple of years ago, of course, as it will be the 100th anniversary of our republic. And the strategic plan already includes the sustainability and diversification of tourism to different products and different destinations, because we are a big country and we are so gifted as geographically and also historically, that we are aware that each city of the country has a tourism offer. And this has not been used that, that much since now. Of course, we have very popular and very famous destinations, but we have plenty of the other ones which are not known and not discovered yet. And when it comes to, again, the tourism experiences, because we have the traditional different, tourism types, of course, and now we are adding all those, new trendy experiences, especially together with the pandemic, the eco, tourism, the camping, caravan routes, cycling tourism, all those, tourism also offers that provide an individual experience are also, as created as products in at the destination. Of course, now the pandemic added a third, important element to the strategies, which is the high hygiene standards, because we are all aware that the pandemic is with us for a while, but after that, people will still care about the safe and trust issue when they travel to a destination and when they choose a tourism property to stay or to experience. So we are creating, and we already actually created our Safe Tourism Certification Program as an not, not for short period product, but an important asset of the Turkish tourism brand, which will continue together with this sustainability criteria and with other criteria, depending on the needs of the near future. Our program will stay as an trust, as an guarantee standard for the country's tourism properties. And sustainability is taken as a very important asset at the property level, at the destination level, and also at the country strategy level. So we will be creating the future for the visitors, for the destinations, because we are aware that together with the diversification of the destination and together with the diversification of the different tourism products, we will be also including new players to the tourism ecosystem. it will create added value to all small enterprise, even individual people living in small villages, in small areas, as they will become part of the tourism economy. So we hope that the good days are not so far from all of us. And together with the reopening, we will be all welcoming the guests with enthusiasm, and we will be able to satisfy them with a new product, a new offer, and a new tourism activity.
Great. Thank you so much. Andreas, I have a question for you. You had mentioned business travel, long haul travel. Obviously, we're able to join virtually with one another now. Technology's sort of helped us adopt that. What do you see as sort of the future trends of business travel, given all that's transformed and all the new technology we have now post-pandemic?
Thank you. Very good question. I think that, what business travel we have to look at and what are we really looking into. So even now during the pandemic, business travel did not die 100%. There was still essential business travel around. I mean, power plant engineers have to go to power plant. If not, our cities have no power. It's as simple as that. So they did go, but they didn't go to 5 different cities and 5 different countries in one turn and then go back to their home country. They went to one place, and they stayed longer, they did the job, and they went back. And I think that's going to be something we're going to see happening in the business segment. That blend between business and leisure is going to become a fundamental new setup, because there's a second trend we also saw. So let's just keep that for a moment in mind. The blend between business and leisure, that famous bleisure, is actually coming through, and we saw that on the essential travel. What we saw coming in the pandemic as well, when a lot of places were locked down, is what we call the workation traveler. Now that's a complete new segment. That's a traveler which actually said, I'm sick and tired of being in a cold place right now when the south of my country is warm, and he moved south, or she moved south, because we were doing work from home. We have the technology now. And that's a huge opportunity for many cities, as well as also metropoles. They're actually new attiring hubs for people actually going there for a longer stay. They're blending work together with leisure, not just from the gig economy side, because we have this flexibility to work away from offices. So that means people which go on a business travel in the future, even if it's not essential, they're going to combine that workation type of feeling where you say, I got these couple of meetings, I'm going to go find that event, I'm going to work a week out of that location. Meaning we saw that, hotel stores that changed their environment, how they offered complete different setup in the rooms. I mean, you're in the Americas where people still pay for Wi-Fi. You're not going to get that in Asia across anymore. Wi-Fi, high-speed Wi-Fi has to be almost like a bare necessity. It's a hygiene factor. But also Wi-Fi accessibility in some of the restaurants or some of the coffee shops becomes super important, that you don't have to go to one of those rental office space areas. But then the hotels also came in and offered a morning snack and afternoon snack, so you don't have to go plunder the minibar on the garbage food that is in more often there. And that's a segment that we see coming through, because we see the spend of these people, how they go to the coffee shops, how they're very much cautious on what they eat for lunch and where they spend. So that business is shifting. So the big corporate business is going to obviously shift. We're not going to go to those intercompany meetings anymore that very often. We're going to cut those budgets. That's to disadvantage of a lot of the airlines and the hotels. But we're still going to go visit our customers. We need to go in-person meetings. That's not going to go away. We're still going to go to those big events and meetings, incentives that are out. But which ones are we going to go to? And where are we going to really spend our dollars, and where are we going to not spend our dollars? Are we going to go with 10 people? Or are we going to go with one person? That's the thing. We're talking about the air traffic. What we're also going to see, if you ask me, is a lot more of the private jet business coming back. Why? Because it's easier to go through a VIP terminal with a private jet if you're 4 or 5 executives of a company than trying to go fly in first class or business class and having to stand afterwards still in the same lines as you would be standing with everybody else until you get the 2 hours extra check-in time that you need through an airport until you get to the aircraft. So you're going to see that business travel change, as well as what type of infrastructure are they going to be consuming. More of the personalized transport in the cities, more of the VIP limousines with doesn't have to be the flat limousines that you see nowadays. We're seeing a lot of different vehicles coming through, like also the Toyotas, which runs like minibuses where you can work inside of those cars. That's the business travel which comes through. And that's fundamentally super important for cities, because that's a great opportunity for the cities to start cater to that type of a segment. Because again, it will fill your hotels on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays when the leisure travel is not there. And we need to fill these hotels on those days, and we need to be able to extend these stays. What we also saw, and I'll just quickly make a small jump and I'll hand it back to you, talking about business. You know, in the old days, we used to have those classical weekend escape customers, which went for a weekend from one place to the other place. We're seeing these now already becoming 3-4 day escapes, because even the leisure consumer is extending now the Monday or the Tuesday and starting to work from a different location. Even if he has no business in that location, he's actually using the extended possibility to stay there. So a lot of morphing between that new life, work and play type of playbook, which has come out of the pandemic, especially not only now in the older generations, which are starting to enjoy this, it's a part of the DNA of the Generation Z anyway already today. And that's the next generation of business travelers, which we're going to have to deal with as a future.
Great. Thank you for those insights. I'm curious, Ming, I mean, Singapore is, a beautiful place, both for tourists, but I mean, there's a tremendous amount of business that is done with and through Singapore. So how do you see business travel looking different post-pandemic?
Yeah, I think some of what Andre shared, I definitely echo that there will be a lot of blend between work and leisure. So we are also thinking about kind of the digital nomads, right? People who really bring their work with them. How do you actually adjust to the needs there? That people will probably be staying longer, and you might have this new, you have this new breed of travelers that are really like what Andreas mentioned, blending their work with leisure itself. But at the same time, we are also seeing that for work travel itself, that what are some of the new things that the traveler might be looking out for? I think on that front, some of the themes that we thought will be quite strong is there will probably be more focus on wellness as well. Even as people blend that work and leisure together, they want to know how can they take good care of themselves. And actually on that front, we thought that Singapore has a great value proposition, because the overall value proposition of city in the garden really as a very urbanized place, but really there's plenty of green spots, plenty of blue spots around the city. You drive too fast in one direction, you're in the sea. It's really many kind of activities around. And the cycling tracks around here in the city itself is just fantastic for people who want to blend work and play together. And I think the other thing is also the overall that fitness culture within Singapore. There's a very strong fitness culture and growing awareness about wellness as well. So I think those will land very well to really the new generation of digital nomads that they want to work in that way. And even for business travelers that comes for business events.
Great, thank you, Ming. One of the things we touched on in the introduction was the 120 million people that have lost their jobs in the tourism sector, and many of these are young people, women, other underrepresented groups in small businesses. How do we regain these jobs and also do it in an inclusive way so that in listening to you all speak, one of the trends that's coming out is how important digital tools are, access to Wi-Fi. And I think, we may consider that as being normal, but that may not be equitable across everyone. So I'm just curious in your thoughts of how do we bring back the jobs and be very inclusive and equitable in doing that?
I see. I think definitely the pandemic has a very major impact on businesses. But one thing that we are very heartened to see is actually even during this period, tourism businesses are still investing time and effort to do transformation. So when we launched what I mentioned earlier about T-Cube as our hybrid innovation platform, we were pleasantly surprised to see a lot of tourism businesses come and attend that event. And when we run various workshops, or proof of concepts or data projects, they too come alongside on the transformation journey. And we believe that even as the businesses transform and prepare themselves, and when the travel resumes, they will create jobs that will bring a lot more people on board. And in a way, I think in Singapore is a little bit of a different perspective, if you may, because we only have that many people on the island. In a way, the supply is actually a constraint, if you may, right? Because we do want to make sure that the human resources that we have are optimally used. So definitely, we will want to include, be it women or people with other skill sets. We want to include them in the workforce as far as we can, because we want to make the best use of human resource. So I think really the key is firstly making sure that business are able to transform, and then they creating the good jobs, and then that will provide the opportunities for different ones on the island itself.
Great. Dr. Balci, I just real quick, we're getting towards the end of our session, but I'd just be interested in Turkey's perspective on making sure that we bring back the jobs soon and be inclusive in doing so.
I agree with Ming as well. Together with the reopening, the new opportunities will occur. Maybe the entire jobs will not be the same jobs that were lost, but we believe there will be room and opportunity for those people to restart working and also being part of the economies. So that we can easily call this period as a transformation period. So we all, as the countries, as the people, as the destination, as all businesses, we should be open for new ideas. We should be very closely watching and following to understand the trends and to see what's happening. Since the beginning, we are attending so many, different discussions and platforms about, when it will reopen and how it will be, when the business tourism will come back, when this will, start again. We had to, update all those scenarios, and still we are updating the scenarios. But I think this is an also good exercise for the recovery. So
great. We have just a couple minutes left, and I just wanted to ask everybody sort of for a closing insight. Andreas, I'll start with you. What do you think is the most important thing a city can do to prepare to welcome back tourists?
Well, I think I'd like to start out and say, don't look back, look forward. It's not going to recover to 2019 because we see different segments coming through, different consumer behavior. And by the time, we're going to have those 5 years down the road where we're going to be basically back to same amount of volume, the segments have changed because a lot of people don't travel anymore for work, and there's a couple of youngsters coming new into the business. So what do I see for cities right now coming forward is there is a huge amount of opportunity in front of you. There's a new customer segment out here. So, if you're looking down and says, who moved my cheese? The cheese is still there. It's just slightly moved to another place. Go look for it. And, there it is there. There's hunger out there. The amount of new acceptance points that we have seen coming through during the pandemic shows that there's hunger out there for people to open business. So if that is around, there's also hunger for people to travel. And where do they want to go? They want to go to the places which are aspiring, like we've heard from Turkey, like we've heard from Singapore, and they will come. But it doesn't look the same as it looked in the past.
Great, thank you so much. Ming, real quick, same question to you. What's the most important thing a city can do to prepare to welcome back tourists?
Yeah, I think we are looking at a lot of changes that we are experiencing right now and in front of us. So I think the best thing we can do is really to position for the agility and change, right? The change that we're looking at, be it COVID changing consumer behaviors and preferences, be it the readiness of the different countries around the world in terms of sending people out from their countries. So the segment is changing. The visitors, we don't know where visitors will come from and how many of them will come. And I think the third thing is really the advances in technologies, be it 5G, AI, data connectivity, extended reality, robotics, all this is going to have a very major impact on consumer behavior and how people travel and experience tourism offerings. So with all this state of flux, I think the most important thing is really position yourself for that change, to have the agility. And for me, I think the technology is really a very important piece to give you that agility.
Great. Thank you very much. We are at the end of our time. I want to thank Ming for joining us from Singapore. Andreas, thank you for joining us also and giving your insights from Mastercard. And also Dr. Balci, thank you so much for giving your insights from Turkey. This has been a great session. Thank you so much for your time and insights. And I look forward to seeing you all in person as soon as we can make it all possible. So thank you all very much for attending our session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.